Hey guys, well, welcome to Monkey's World. This is our genealogy video. Now, I also have a couple of other videos planned. There. I have a WWE Crown Jewel preview planned, which we will do. We're working on a cooking video. And we're going to do a video picking out an outfit for the Dollies and Donuts Veterans Party at the Historical Society. In this video, I'm going to talk about the Rick Walls book. I went through it last night and highlighted some things. Unfortunately, the 1890 census isn't the only major U.S. record set that's gone up in smoke. Other conflagrations have burned gaping holes in the collective historical record. I just thought that was funny. Military records are one of the things that burnt, although a lot of those records still survive in other places. So that's not a total loss. Okay, the fire that took the 1890 census. You got to hear this. The missing 1890 census isn't as simple as it was lost in a fire. Actually, different parts of the census burned in not one but two fires. After the second and more devastating fire, the surviving waterlogged records were left neglected, then quietly destroyed years later by government administrators. Really? I understand it's paper, but lay it out flat somewhere where it's not going to mold and allow it to dry, then microfilm it. Eek. And here's their pro tip. Use the 1900 and 1910 censuses, 1900 and 1910 census columns for children born to a woman and her children still living to help determine whether you've missed any children born after 1880 who died or left home before 1900. In other words, somewhere between 1880 and 1890. Okay. I highlighted some of the document disasters in history. German records have been destroyed twice. The Royal Library of Portugal is destroyed in an earthquake. Although you would think that in an earthquake, it hurts. That yes, things are going to fall down, but when you dig through, you should be able to find books. Dusty, but they should be intact. Anyway, in 1922, the Irish censuses, wills, and parish registers at the Four Courts bombing in Dublin. Now remember, 1922 was the year before Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland became two. Several Japanese collections, and in the 1940s, World War I British service records, and many others in bombings across Europe and China. Okay, that was World War II. Okay, 2003, Iraq's National Library and Archives and other Iraqi repositories were burned and looted. We did that. That's so wrong. I understand we were at war with these people, but why would you do that to the people who didn't have anything to do with it? You know what I mean? The citizens. Ellis Island had a fire. Records lost. Passenger arrival records at Castle Garden from 1855 to 1890. The Barge Office from 1890 to 1891. And Ellis Island, 1892 to 1897. So I'm wondering if the reason that I can't find my great-grandmother at Castle Garden was because her record may have been destroyed. CastleGarden.org and Ellis Island's website, of course, have as many records as they have, you know. And I've put those in previous now, if we keep doing the same thing, we end up with the same result, a brick wall. Okay. This is the actual fate of the 1890 census. In January 1921, a fire consumed the Commerce Building in Washington, D.C. Fire, smoke, and water damage destroyed a substantial portion of 1890 census returns, leading to an almost total loss of the record set. Of the nearly 63 million people recorded in the census, only about 6,160 total names were spared the fire and flood. And there are a few states that did survive. Partial states, I might add. But and the reason it was flooded, from what I read, was because they just kept spraying water on even after it was out. Okay, one of the things for the 1890 census are state censuses. Now, I looked for like city directories, but I should look at state census in Connecticut if I can find them. They're talking about a specific person. That's talking about fixing data problems in your tree. Now let me read you what it says. Find and fix data problems in your tree. Make sure vital event dates are at least possible. Standardized place names. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Avoid abbreviations. I abbreviate state names. If you think I'm going to write out Massachusetts every single time, you're out of your freaking mind. I can barely spell it. You know how many years it took me to learn to spell it, and I still have doubts that I spell it correctly. That's hilarious. And I'm not sure how they want you to standardize place names. Maybe write them all the same, but Ancestry doesn't, so. And use your hints on the family tree sites like Ancestry and MyHeritage and all that. Follow up on clues and fill in gaps. This is something my mother and I had been working on. Fill in gaps. Re-examine records, especially census returns, for clues to other sources. Use tools such as the Record Detective on MyHeritage. Never heard of it. I'll have to check it out. Document all your facts. Record what you found, where you found each piece of information, so you and other researchers can evaluate accuracy. Use your genealogy software or online family tree to find facts lacking source documentation. As I've told you, I like there to be some kind of source documentation. You'll find on my tree online that every source that I've used, you know, that's on Ancestry is listed in the middle. Make sure you download records you do not want to lose, especially documents from subscription sites. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Follow up on clues and fill in gaps. Again, that's something my mother and I were working on. And document all your facts. Are you looking in the right state or county? And that's an important thing, because some states, and they do have randymajors.com. I also enjoy Steve Morse. His website is really good and really helpful. Not just for that, for everything. What they're talking about is boundary lines get changed for counties, but also for states. You have to remember, for example, in my own family, the state of Maine, up until it gained its independent statehood, was a part of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So if you don't keep things like that in mind, you might have trouble finding records, because when did the Dakotas split? When did the Carolinas split? Depending on where your family is located. Good sources for online maps include state and university libraries, websites, the Library of Congress, and the David Rumsey Maps collection, davidrumsey.com. This person did a map and put all the names of their family on it, which is kind of cool. For the most part, my family hasn't been in this country long enough for that to be an issue, except on my mother's side. SteveMorse.org has enumeration districts to make it really easy for you to quickly find if you want to go through an entire town. Like, if I were to want to go through Manchog, the village, I would go to stevemorse.org and I would get the enumeration district for that. I would put it in, and I would go through Manchog in 1950, for example. And it is fun to go through your village in the different census years, because you never know what you're going to find, or who you're going to find that you didn't know actually lived there. And here's one that I wanted to touch on: street names and address changes. Well, there are several reasons why this happens. One of them is that town boundaries change, so all of a sudden what is a part of, I don't know, Webster today may have been a part of Dudley 100 years ago, because they took parts of like 3 towns and made a town. So, and they do that. One of the other ways that addresses change, the address that I grew up at has changed, because the town has decided to eliminate the village of East Douglas, which is where I live. I'm sorry, but if you look at the signs, we are a historic mill village, and it is where I live, and you're not going to change that just because you would like to change that, you know what I mean? So, but they decided to eliminate it and change all of the street numbers. So the house that I grew up at was number 93. It's now number 353 or something like that. It's insane. So if you go back to the 1980 census, when that comes out, when I'm 70 years old, you will see a different address that does not exist anymore. So it's just an example, and there are other addresses and census records that don't exist anymore for a multitude of reasons. Says to keyword search city directories. I'm not sure how you would do that, but, and look for plat maps. Those are maps created by the county, and they show property ownership, lot boundaries, block names, neighborhood developments, all that sort of stuff, which can help you figure out. They also have something called Sanborn Fire Insurance maps. They're in the Library of Congress. A guide to local street names is helpful. Once you have an address, search the census by address. Can the neighbors help? Well, you never know, because I have found that in going through census records, and that's what they're talking about there, when you find the neighbors, you might actually find more family, especially back in the old days. Excuse me. Because there we go. A lot of times back in the day, people lived near their relatives. It wasn't uncommon. So you might find 4 people with the same last name in the census, 4 households right in a row. Chances are they're all related. It's mom and dad, it's 3 siblings, it's so that's kind of important. So always look around it, just like they tell you when someone quotes you a Bible verse, read around it. Well, the same rule should apply to the census. Because in the olden days that was true. As we get into later censuses, the next one to come out will be 60. That won't be as true. You know, in 1960 and beyond, that won't be true. Hopefully I will be alive to see myself in 1980. That would be fun. I don't know if I'm going to be in Millbury or I think Douglas. Based on when the census was done in the spring, it'll be Douglas. But yeah. Of course, it'll be interesting to see who lived where I was born. I think I know who lived there in 1950. It was family, because I believe that one was owned by family. I'll have to look at Manchog in 1950 and see who was there. My father lived there, he said, from the age of what, 15 or 16. So that would be about 60. So he would have lived in the house I was born in the next census coming out in 2032. Trying to think, how old will I be when the 80 comes out? 32? And then 70 and 42, it'd be 52. So I will be 68? Yeah, because I'll be 70 and 54. So yeah, I'll be 68. I should be alive. I'm good. So yeah, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do our preview of Crown Jewel, which is tomorrow on Peacock, which would be Saturday, November 5th. I don't know what time, but I'm not going to watch it till the evening because I have the party. and I don't have any clue, because it's coming out of Saudi Arabia, what time it's going to be on here. I can look and see if I have a local start time for you, which I will do and get back to you in the next video, because that's the video where we talk about it. So, thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something, and I'll put stevemorris.org in the description, because I think it's an important resource, particularly for census records, for help with enumeration districts. Those are just the numbers they use for towns and villages, basically, and things like that. So, yeah, it is a freaking gorgeous day out again. So that's awesome. That's going to take a long time to cook because there's a lot of it. And it's okay, because that's what I wanted to do. Try that experiment. See what happens. I'm glad I have a nice big pot to do it in. And put a bunch away. By the way, that chili was hecka hot. You said it was on the sweet side. No, it wasn't. It was hot. But anyway, I will come back and do that for you next. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless you. And I will see you next time. Please hit like, subscribe if you are new. Bye-bye. God bless you.